Thank you for coming back to my channel, lovely humans. So today, spoiler alerts are in place because I am going to be talking about a little review and opinion of the new Beetlejuice movie. It has been out for 2 weeks now. And so I'm going to try to not give away too many things, but in order for some of my review to make sense, I'm going to have to give a couple things away. So spoiler alert is now in effect. Again, spoiler alert. Don't tell me in the comments that I didn't warn you, but let's go ahead and talk about it. So I was really excited to get to see the reprised roles of Michael Keaton, and it worked out very well. Because sometimes, like with David Krumholtz, if you don't know who that is who replayed Bernard in the Santa Claus. Because elves are supposed to be, non-aging, eternally whatever creatures, having him be notably aged, kind of didn't work as well, I think, personal opinion. But since Beetlejuice is a demonic entity who is already, kind of crazy and decrepit looking, having a little bit of aging on Michael Keaton didn't really affect the role whatsoever. So that was really cool. Winona Ryder, score! And Catherine O'Hara, of course, I always love her over-the-topness. And I was really happy to see Jenna Ortega getting put into the spooky thing again. I love it so much. There's so much Christina Ricci-ness about Jenna Ortega, but she's also able to balance it with some softer roles that we've seen. So her talent is always pleasing to see on the screen. And we also do not have Jeffrey Jones. If you do not know, Jeffrey Jones, who played the father Charles in the original Beetlejuice, was not brought back because he had allegations and charges of liking children a little too much. Overall, I thought the movie was really good. I thought that it balanced out, just enough modern stuff to make it modern. I enjoyed seeing how they use cell phones without it becoming entirely the main focus. I really liked that, at the end of Beetlejuice, it's a lot of fun, when Lydia's a teenager and she gets to have her ghost co-parents and, it's all good stuff. But then she grows up and, she can see ghosts. And she has to try to live an adult life with that. And so she goes one of the few paths that she can have while using her ability, which is she gets a TV show and becomes a host of a ghost hunting, ghost seeking show. And her first husband and her daughter, played by Jenna Ortega, named Astrid's father, is killed on one of his travels, and it drives a wedge between the two of them because Astrid doesn't believe her mother can see ghosts. She thinks it's all BS. And she wants to know, well, if you can see all these strangers' ghosts, why can't you see my dad? Why can't you talk to your husband? And she's like, I don't know. And it's really hard to deal with. And, having a famous parent is also hard to deal with, especially when your parent is famous for something supernatural related. Unless your dad is from Supernatural, I guess. But, she has to deal with that. And she goes to her mother's childhood home, or teenage dumb home, because Charles is still put into the movie. He is just doing voiceover. There's a little clay animation version of him, and then there is a headless version of him. He ends up beheaded in a kind of way. He does end up passing away, and that becomes one of the first main central points of the movie, is that he has passed away, and now the Delia, Lydia, and Astrid all have to go back to the original home and host a funeral. And going along with them is Rory. Rory is the producer / boyfriend that Lydia has, and Lydia is so half with him. She's like, I kind of need your support. It's very codependent. But she doesn't super like him. He doesn't seem to attune to her needs truly. and it just becomes a thing about that. And Astrid hates Rory, of course. So they go to the funeral, and Rory, afraid of losing Lydia, says, oh, let's get married at the wake. And then they're going to get married in 2 days, which is Halloween. In the meantime, Astrid, being ticked off about the whole thing, runs off, and she ends up meeting a boy after she crashes into his fence and at the base of his treehouse. They hit it off. It's really cute. Well, then you go to learn that the boy, this becomes a secondary plot point in the movie, is actually a ghost who had passed away many, many years ago. And when Astrid learns this, she's, still teenage infatuated with him. It's her first, real crush boy thing. And Lydia finds out by accident. She drops off Astrid, and to try to not be an overbearing parent, she's trying to make things better between her and Astrid. She's like, okay, go. Yeah. Oh, he looks cute. Bye. And then a friend of the family tells Lydia that the house that she dropped Astrid off at is a house full of, nobody's lived there for years because all of the family members had passed away. And even though you see the boy's parents, Jeremy's parents, you always see them from the back. And then when you actually do get to see them from the front, the mother and the father have had what ended their lives on them. And it's like, oh. And the boy, using his charm and Astrid's affection to lure her to the other side, and gets her to, he says, hey, in order to go to the other side with me, to help me, you have to read this chant. Well, the chant is actually an agreement to give her soul to Jeremy. And she doesn't know that. And so they go there, and of course all of that happens, but Lydia is like, oh, I need to help them. And so she does the only thing she knows to do. She summons Beetlejuice. She's like, I need to save my daughter. She was taken to the other side. And he's like, well, I'll have to marry you. And she's like, okay, great, sure, let's go. For our third main plot point, which is Beetlejuice's original wife. If you remember in the original movie, he rips off a ring from a finger, just a finger. And it's from his first wife. Now, in this movie, we get to meet his first wife, Dolores. She's come back to life. She was a cult leader who sucked Beetlejuice's soul when he was alive after she married him to be able to get immortality and her dark magic. And she is a soul sucker. She just literally goes up to people and Death Eater style sucks in them, and then they go to their final death. Like how in Coco, if you don't have people to pass on your stories, you go to a permanent death. Well, that's what she does. She sucks the souls out of the undead or anybody else who she comes across. She's after Beetlejuice, and he's like, in order to get away from her, I need to marry someone. I'm gonna stay hooked on Lydia because she's brought me back. So then the whole adventure of saving Astrid's soul from Jeremy, the Rory situation, and she still can't talk to her dad, and it makes her very upset. She's like, I can talk to all kinds of ghosts except the ones that are close to me, and there's this whole thing going on. Well, because Beetlejuice brings Lydia without a chant or anything into the afterworld, the entire afterlife police force is after them. And so they're trying to navigate that. And hey, lucky for us, we get to come across the dad. They get to meet up. And here's my first problem, is that it's never explained. She doesn't even ask. Astrid and Lydia they have this nice little wholesome family moment. Oh, they're finally reunited. But no one, Astrid or Rory, don't ask, like, why can't I see you? Why didn't you come to me? Why can't we communicate on the other side? It never comes up. We never find out. We're just, oh, she can't talk to this person, and there's no connective reason why. It's just not brought up. So there's really no resolution there. But Astrid's dad helps them escape the afterlife, through a super portal. thing that he knows about. And then the police force follows them because of the whole soul thing, like her soul still belongs over here, blah, blah, blah. And then Lydia's like, I can make this all go away if I marry Rory. If I marry Rory, I can't marry Beetlejuice, and maybe this whole thing will go away. So she tries to go through with that. Beetlejuice, of course, doesn't let that happen. And in order to prevent that, he injects Rory with a truth serum. And Rory just starts spilling off how he never really loved Lydia. He thinks her ability is BS for the years that they've known each other. And he just wants to marry her for the money. He just met the, in his quote-unquote words, codependent jackpot. Though she is kind of weird and wild and over the top, she can't seem to deal with his loss very well. So she goes through all of these over-the-top artistic rituals, including an ancient Egyptian ritual involving asps, snakes. She pays extra to have them be defanged, non-venomous. And she was scammed. She was just given regular snakes. So when she comes into the picture, everyone can see her because Astrid and Ghost. And of course, you know, the police force, the afterlife police force, and Beetlejuice can see Ghost. And then a whole wedding sequence happens. There's this weird little song number that's really just to show off Beetlejuice's power. Oh, and in the trailer, how they show like a bunch of the media influencers getting their faces sucked into their own phones. That's it. That's the whole scene. There's nothing more to that. Rory, to try to make profit off of Lydia and their marriage, he invites a bunch of influencers to their wedding, and then Beetlejuice, you know, sucks their souls into their phones. So it seemed cool in the movie, but there wasn't really more to it than that. And here's where the big spoiler alert happens. We're at the end of the movie. It's the climax. Beetlejuice has managed to trick Jeremy into reversing the soul thing so that Astrid gets her soul back. Okay, cool, great. But now Astrid wants to save her mother from Beetlejuice. Well, lo and behold, here comes Dolores, who is mad about the whole thing because she's like, your soul belongs to me, you belong to me. And it ends really anticlimactically. There's a lot of buildup around Dolores. There's a whole, like, flashback dedicated to her and Beetlejuice. And then Beetlejuice just opens a door and a sandworm gets her.